Well, this was the announcement in the newspaper 2 days after Christmas in 1901 under an all caps headline, vaccination in Boston. Quote, notwithstanding the fact that some 400,000 people have been vaccinated in Boston since January the 1st, the Board of Health ordered that all the inhabitants of this city be vaccinated or revaccinated forthwith. The board explains that although there has been a most remarkable cooperation throughout the city, the medical profession and the people in general having acquiesced to a most remarkable extent in its request for vaccination, it is necessary in order to stamp out the smallpox epidemic that all persons not protected by vaccination.
Don't you just love the old school way of speaking sometimes? It's like very clinical, very doctorly. The board explains, although there has been a remarkable increase in cooperation throughout the city, we'll say, I'm reading this like in words that you guys might be able to understand a lot better than what they're saying. Because I mean, some people understand what they're saying, not everyone's going to get it. So cooperation's increased throughout the city. The medical professionals and people in general have given in to a remarkable extent in its requests for vaccinations. It's necessary to stamp out the smallpox epidemic, and all persons not protected by vaccinations or revaccinations should be vaccinated now.
Or revaccination shall be vaccinated. It killed hundreds of people. It would also turn out to be Boston's very last smallpox outbreak, because if cases kept climbing, despite pretty high vaccination rates, the health department mandated that everyone in Boston get a vaccine. Doctors went door to door with vaccines. Look at this amazing illustration from the Boston Globe. This is January 28th, 1902. So about a month after the health department announced the mandate. Quote, about 10,000 vaccinated in South Boston. Board of Health had 115 physicians at work. And below that, it illustrates what each of these doctors carried with them: cotton, alcohol, and, quote, several boxes of vaccine points. The boxes probably looked something like this. Smallpox vaccine was administered at the time using a point made of ivory or bone with a little bit of the virus on the end. Doctors went house to house vaccinating people, as illustrated by the Boston Globe. Here's one woman getting the vaccine, surrounded by her small children. The caption reads, "Protecting Mama." Anyone who refused a vaccine would be fined $5. That's equivalent to about $150 today. And you see part of the headline on that illustration. The Board of Health, quote, intends to...
The $150 for refusing vaccination in this case, right? Like, now, and conservatives today think that the vaccination mandates were bad. They think it's some kind of crazy encroachment on their freedoms or something like that. But it's, look at history, guys. Come on.
Bring those who refuse
nothing.
into
Wait
court.
till you hear the next article.
That's exactly what ended up happening. A local pastor named Henning Jacobson refused to be vaccinated. He refused to pay the $5 fine. He took his case all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, and he lost. In its opinion, the Supreme Court wrote, quote, there is, of course, a sphere within which the individual may assert the supremacy of his own will and rightfully dispute the authority of any human government.
There is, of course, a group or a small category of people where individuals think that their own will and their own rights or own privilege or whatever, like, you know, people, basically, my body, my choice in a way, but with vaccines this way. But, yeah, I mean, you do have a choice, absolutely. But the state has the right also to impose a restriction for public health due to the safety of the people, the safety of everyone. Their job is tasked to protect everyone. So their goal is to temporarily suspend rights and freedoms in some cases to pursue that goal of public health. And that's just like going places, you know, how they did lockdowns, forcing, you know, the vaccines in the way of, like, you know, oh, you want to go here, you have to have the vaccine. Oh, you want to be able to go in, you know, go to work, you have to have the vaccine. That's understandable because there's liability there. If they don't force you to get the vaccine and you come there with the virus, your employer could be held responsible for that. The government could be held responsible for that legally. And so there is an expectation of protection there. But unfortunately now, the government has kind of given up a little bit. So honestly, there's still, I mean, COVID's still going around, but people don't hear about it a lot. People don't think about it, but you absolutely need to take precautions still because it's still out there. I mean, the vaccines help, but they're not perfect. They don't protect against transmission. They don't protect against getting it. It simply just helps you not die from it. And even then, it's I mean, the protection wanes after time. You have to keep getting boosters. So inevitably, you need to get a vaccine that's sterilizing this, prevents the ability for the virus to forward transmit, to be able to get to other people. Something that can also prevent it from being able to infect you. There's been research, there's been progress in this, but it's taking a lot more effort and time that's necessary because all the public health emergency and stuff like that's been basically pushed away. And the Biden administration absolutely bears responsibility for that as well. I mean, Trump bared the responsibility for the first allowing the pandemic to happen here in the first place, but Biden has been horrific with his handling of the pandemic and public messaging around the pandemic. He's given in to the fatigue that people have been experiencing around it instead of actively fighting against the fatigue and trying to say, hey, look, this is what we have to do. This is the new normal now. Like, this is, you have to take these precautions if you wish to stay healthy. And it's the truth because these people, like, people don't realize I'm getting sick all the time. What's going on? I have all these allergies and things. Oh my God. No, it's COVID. It's all fucking COVID. You test. Are you testing yourself? Ask yourself that question. Are you testing? Are you taking precautions? It's an airborne virus. It spreads between people just breathing in an environment, and it can stay in the air for up to 4 hours. And depends on the CO2 concentrations in rooms. So tighter closed-in spaces with no ventilation, much worse. And like hospitals with closed, you don't have good ventilation in some cases, those are the worst possible places. I've gotten COVID at least, I think, twice. I think it's twice. I don't think I've had it 3 times. Not, I don't think yet. But I've gotten it every time I've gotten it. It was been in a hospital. So I mean, legitimately, like, consider that. If you are you really like, if you're super sick or injured and you go to the hospital try to get better, and then you end up getting COVID from the hospital, what do you do then? You die, or just maybe you get through it? You don't know. That's a gamble you're playing. You're taking a gun, you're taking the revolver and doing Russian roulette every time, man. It's not worth it. Like, this shit is designed, like vaccinations and stuff like that, are designed to be a public health measure to help protect people and keep people safe.
Especially of any free government existing under a written constitution. But it is charged with the duty of conserving the...
A well-ordered society is charged with the duty of conserving the safety of its members and the rights of the individual in respect to his liberty may at times, under the pressure of great danger, be subjected to restraint, to be enforced by reasonable regulation, and the safety of the general public may be in demand. So, like, basically what they're saying is that in times of severe crisis, struggle, war, famine, death, your rights can be regulated to enable them to do their job, to help the public good, to bring society back, to get things back in working order. That's the point. Not some kind of special conspiracy trying to take permanent control perpetually forever. It's some aspects might persist indefinitely, but most will be released. Like, if everybody wore a mask right now, COVID numbers would drop significantly. If back when COVID was in lockdown, we could have all wore N95s and went out and it would have been fine. But the public health didn't know this. The public health didn't have the research then. They do somewhat now, but they're not giving the messaging out properly, and it's ridiculous. And I understand the frustration with like not trusting public health authorities because of that. I get it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everything they're saying is wrong.
Safety of its members, the rights of the individual,
critical thinking is
to his
critical
liberty
in America.
May at times, under the pressure of great dangers, be subjected to such restraint to be enforced in public. Boston smallpox epidemic produced a vital legal precedent about what the government is allowed to do in the name of public health. And also, the vaccine mandate in Boston worked. You can see from this chart that smallpox cases in Boston peaked in December of 1901. At the end of that month, the health department announced the vaccine mandate, and from there, cases came steadily down from their peak until the very last few cases were documented in the spring of 1903. Now, it bears
Oh my
mentioning that
God.
Boston's response to the smallpox
What about that? It worked? Public health works?
epidemic and the Supreme Court ruling upholding it were far from perfect. Public health authorities in
Absolutely.
Boston, for instance, vaccinated people forcibly in some cases, especially in immigrant and disadvantaged communities. And there had to be further judicial intervention to clarify that that was not acceptable. The Supreme Court decision upholding public health mandates was later used to defend things like forced sterilization. Medical ethics and American law are always evolving, and hopefully we get better at this stuff over time. I mean, just to be clear, no matter what your uncle who watches Fox News is telling you, no one from the federal government is coming to your house to force a COVID vaccine onto you or into you.
Now, he is partially wrong in that, yes, the government officials aren't going to come to your house, and they weren't going to come to your house during the pandemic. This is a 3-year-old video. But the forcible element of like taking away people's jobs and stuff like that, that is a critical factor that they did need to consider. So absolutely. The job loss factor of like forcing people to have the vaccination to work or to go to certain places or whatever, yeah, that's critical. But it's important because those places, like I said before, bear liability as well. And in the time where they didn't want to have any kind of possible like risk of being related to it, being like a super spreader, being anything like that, they didn't want that legal potential liability because there was no precedent cases set for that. There's no way for them to be able to fight it. They would be literally like on the point of, if the government just so happened to think that, yeah, they did just the wrong thing, now that opens up lawsuits for every other kind of industry. And so they were like super really just, no, we don't want to, we any precaution we can take, do it. Like, public health is important because it's liability to us. It costs us money. That is the whole fucking point. Corporations are not your friends, but they'll also do shit because it makes them lose money. So when you make them lose money, that's the best thing you could do to corporations. Make them lose money. Then they start changing shit. Then you get the shit that you want. The people have, when they say people have the power to vote with their dollar, it's not one person. It's the whole fucking group. Anyway, let's also get to the other point here I was going to make. How the pox epidemic changed vaccination rules. This was published in 2011, and there was a element where people were talking about how their civil liberties have gotten taken away since 2001 after September 11th and stuff like that. And they were mentioning about this, but this also goes for what people were saying about how, oh, our liberties are getting taken away for having to be vaccinated. This was literally a case where policemen were holding down men in their robes and forcing them to be vaccinated for pox virus. They were literally holding them to the floor by force. There's no fine here. It's just, oh, I don't want it. Okay, too bad. You're on the floor now. You've been injected with it. It's yours now. Good luck. Like, and to think that that kind of shit is like, I mean, like, yeah, that's aggressive. It's effective. Yeah, absolutely, it's effective. It'll work. But most of the time, the public health authorities don't want to do stuff like that. But in cases where they have to, what else are they supposed to do? People that don't want to get it and they don't want to protect other people, they don't want to do that. They think that, oh, I don't need it. My immune system is special. I'm special. No, you're not. You're just like anybody else. You are just going to be another fucking person that's going to spread the fucking virus or spread the pathogen or whatever it is. Virus could be fucking a bacterium, could be fungal, could be anything, really. I mean, but you are going to be the person that is the one who hides the fucking zombie bite. That's who you are. You are the person who hides the zombie bite. Like, fuck. Literally, it's like, I get the point that, like, yeah, this is bullshit. But also at the same time, I get where they're coming from. And it's absolutely justifiable in some ways. Like, people that wouldn't compelled, like, that need to be compelled in some way to do it because it's important. It's important for the stability of the entirety of the whole, not just for a few. And then people then nowadays have this individual mentality that Reaganites pushed. This whole pick yourself up by the bootstraps, oh, hard work, you're the only person that can do everything. That whole bullshit is led to a single like aspect of America now where it's like nobody's willing to help other people at all. Even in cases of like public health and shit, no one's willing to give out anything. No one's willing to sacrifice anything. They will not sacrifice one convenience of their life in protection of another person. We see it every day. Gun violence, homeless people. What the fuck? What are we doing? What is this country? You give people homes. You stop the violence. You take away fucking guns of people that have mental health conditions. Even people that might not necessarily have the mental health conditions documented, you have to go and proactively figure out this stuff. Look into kids. Protect the kids. Help kids. Kids that are reclusive, kids that are loners, kids that get bullied. Fucking help them. They're the ones that a lot of times do these mass shootings and shit. It's There's a lot of these situations that conservatives are right in one aspect. Mental health is a good point. It is a very important aspect of this. The whole aspect that we don't have third places for people. The whole aspect that there's financial instability, food instability. There's so many different things. The differences in education systems based upon the socioeconomic factors. Like if you're in a black neighborhood, your school is so much worse off in a lot of cases. Like you might even still have lead pipes and shit like that in your school, asbestos. Like the health conditions, everything, all this stuff feeds into it. It's all one big ball of shit that people need to think about. And nobody fucking has the mental capacity to do it anymore. Like everybody's so fucking I just have to have what I want and that's all that matters. This individualistic like hyper narcissistic mentality is just so broken. We have to worry about bringing people back from this brink and uplifting people and uplifting the whole. And Trump's tariffs and everything that's coming out now, it's going to be so much worse. People are going to suffer. People are going to die. People are going to starve. And for what? So one elite person can get higher up and have more money and more wealth and more power, so he can nuke the planet back to the Stone Age. What's the end goal here, guys? Come on. I mean, really. I mean, the supporters of Trump give in to him because he has this like ability to get to connect with them and like talk to them at their level and like understand, the way to talk to them and get just right into their minds. And like, it astounds me that he's able to worm his way in and then also shut the door behind him. It's amazing. It's amazing how he's able to do that. And if you are a Trump supporter, seriously, reconsider. Just reconsider your opinions. Reconsider your thoughts. Listen to people. Take on what they have to say. Think about it. It may be uncomfortable, but that's the point. The uncomfortableness is a whole aspect of your brain that you have to fight. You have to fight that instinct. You have to fight that cognitive dissonance that you feel, that pain, that oh my god, what's going on? I don't like this information. It hurts my head. It's stuff I don't want to know. It's stuff I don't like. I don't want to understand it this way, or I don't think it's this way. You got to just like take it on and say, okay, look, this is their opinion. Let's compare mine to theirs and understand what I know and what they know. You got to fucking get into that and have conversation, have dialogue. But we're so isolated in our echo chambers today. And exactly as like Hideo Kojima said in Metal Gear Solid, the world's being devoured in truth, perspective truth, not objective truth. The truth that we can all see in reality is being lost by this perverted digital illusion that's presented in front of it almost with technology in some ways. Like the real like our capacity for connectivity in the online world has been exploited to change our perspective of absolute objective reality into subjective reality. And it just astounds me in some ways. But let's get back to this article real quick. From the start of organized vaccination campaigns against smallpox, there was public resistance. Absolutely. Of course there's going to be resistance to something that they don't understand. Of course there's going to be resistance to something that they don't know if it's going to be harmful to their body or not. Like, yeah, we get that. And a lot of that has been tested for, a lot of that is expected. And there may be people who do get sick from it. There may be people who are harmed by the vaccine. And unfortunately, like, we can't figure out like that in that kind of situation. Like, it's only really a factor of like personal genetics, personal like, outcomes and stuff like that. Like, but inevitably the real truth of the matter is that like more people will be helped by having the vaccine than will be hurted by it. Like hurt by it. Hurted. But yeah, like, and I just don't get. It's like vaccines with like just there's like with vaccines with immigration with fucking like racism has been a big touching point in this country for like a lot of people have been polarized into racism. There's so many different nuances in this country of things that are all stemming from Trump's like catered mentality of this like whole trying to get people to really dig into that Reaganite like the world's just yours and that's all it is. It's your place to like your little playground, your little plaything, like it's all yours, you're the god kind of thing. Like that mentality basically is what it is. It's just like it's this pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You become dehumanizing to other people. You take away their humanity. You subtract from them. You like that, and that's exactly what he does. Look at the vermin poisoning the blood of our nation, and all these other like terms. Those are dehumanizing terms. They take away the humanity, the person behind it. They take away the individuality, the person you can connect with, the words that they speak, the language they understand, the concepts and feelings and emotions behind them, and the physical entity that is their body. You completely dismiss all of that. You take away all of that aspect of them and just put them into an other category, and it's literally divide and conquer, polarizing the population in certain ways. And polarizing is basically your face, like your orientation is one way or another, like but like polarization basically leads to these constant struggle, constant battle, all this division between everybody because nobody can come to a sensible agreement in the defense of the nation because everybody is so different, like so many different perspectives, so many different positions, and so many different understandings of what's going on that it all just comes back and fucking in this big pot of shit. And everybody keeps throwing all the shit in the pot, but nobody actually talks about real concepts. They keep it all to themselves, these little groups, because everybody gets validated in these little echo chambers. Nobody's ever invalidated in the echo chambers. It makes them feel good. So then they just sling all the shit out, and then nothing can ever get into them because they're in these little fucking gated communities. And it's just, it's there's no like, what are we supposed to do here? You know, you have to find a way to broker between the groups or something. I'm not really sure, but just try to be good to one another for one. Try to be better to one another. Try to give people a second to fucking explain. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Give people a fucking chance. Help people. Do good in this world. Be the change you want to see. Don't just fucking parrot these goddamn politicians and idealize them for no reason. Idealization is basically thinking that they're going to do something that they're not going to do because they told you so, like listening to them, trusting them, like believing every little thing they're going to do. Like I don't even care like about the Democrats that much. Like literally the only reason most people are voting for Dems was because they didn't want basically Diet Hitler getting into office. And we call it Diet Hitler because of everything he's said he is going to do and everything he's acted as if he was going to do. And then we heard from people in his cabinet, in the government last time. He tried to be a dictator, but they blocked him. But now they're not there anymore. So he's going to fucking do it. And he has the entirety of the House, the Senate, the fucking the highest courts in the land. Have you watched Star Wars? I mean, Emperor Palpatine much? Fuck, dude, come on.